The person behind the camera or the person choosing a photo that gets presented to others holds the power. Here's some proof for you. There's this trend going on around TikTok where a wife shows the types of pictures she takes of her husband. They are cool and beautiful and do a very good job of making the husband look amazing. Then the trend turns when the wife shows pictures her husband takes of her. They are all awful and awkward and photos she preferred to never see the light of day. My own husband has even done this to me and captured me eating this big gluten-free burger and posted a review on it on the restaurant's Google review page. Gracias, mi amor. I've got a photo of this on the show notes page, as well as some examples of these TikToks that I just mentioned. While this trend is all in good fun, this principle about power dynamics, specifically as it relates to photography and videos, mediums that capture the likeness of others at a specific point in time, the photographer or the person who chooses the imagery to be used holds the power because the imagery they choose to present influences the way others think about, view, and perceive the persons being highlighted in the imagery. We're going to get into this more in detail and, of course, what it means for you as a marketer after this short break. In the book, did you know that most businesses only use 20% of their data? That's like reading a book with most of the pages torn out or paying for a coffee that's just 1/5 full. Point is, you miss a lot unless you use HubSpot. Their customer platform gives you access to the data you need to grow your business. The insights trapped in emails, call logs, and transcripts, all that unstructured data that makes all the difference. Because when you know more, you grow more. And when you get a full cup of coffee, you can do more too. But I digress. Visit HubSpot.com today. Book Understanding Photojournalism. Authors Jennifer Good and Paul Lowe offered this really great insight. They wrote, "In our work teaching photojournalism students, one of the most important principles we try to communicate, and often one of the hardest for them to appreciate, is that one way or another, a photographer's political views will always manifest themselves in the aesthetic choices they make. What they choose to include in the frame and what is excluded, whether their chosen viewpoint is high or low, the minute subtleties or facial expression and body language that are captured, even the use of black and white versus color. Each of these choices may feel purely arbitrary, intuitive, or aesthetic, but each has important implications for how their subject is represented." They went on to write, "Each says something intentional or not about how the photographer sees their subject. The power of the camera in a photojournalism is so great precisely because that point of view is then passed on as it is captured and seen again and again, sometimes by thousands of other people. These viewers may then, in turn, accept the image as objective, not realizing that their perception of a person or event has already been wordlessly shaped by a medium that is supposed to speak for itself. When the power of photographic representation and its presumed transparency intersect in the public space of the media, the stakes are often very high indeed." So whether you're the photographer or the one choosing which photos to use for your brand's website, social media channels, or promotional campaigns and materials, the imagery you select tells a story about the people captured and included in it. It's up to you to ensure you're using that power to tell stories that are an accurate representation of not only the people in the visuals, but also of the communities whose identities they hold. One way to do that is to focus on the power dynamics that are at play in the imagery. What are power dynamics exactly? To understand power dynamics in imagery, it is helpful to understand the components of power. Social psychologists John R.P. French and Bertram Raven conducted a study and determined 5 distinct forms of power way back in 1959. Their work produced a 6th form or base of power in 1965. Here are those bases of power. There's coercive power, forcing someone to do something against their will. There's reward power, which is giving benefits to someone for doing something. Then there's legitimate power, which is power someone has because of a title or position, like a boss, a CEO, or a government official. Then there's referent power, which is influence or power in relationships due to things like charisma and likability. There's expert power, which comes from specialized knowledge, domain of expertise, and skill sets. And then the last one that was added later is informational power, which is all about having knowledge and information that people need. Power in this sense is exerted by providing or withholding that needed information. So how does this play out from a marketing perspective? Not only do you have power in the choices you make, but the visuals themselves communicate different types of power that influence people viewing the imagery. As such, it is important for you to use your power, which really just means possession of control, authority, or influence over others, with the imagery you select in a manner that not only doesn't cause any type of harm, but also creates a more accurate narrative of people, particularly those from underrepresented and underserved communities. Common ways visual imagery can cause harm is by perpetuating negative stereotypes and narratives of already marginalized communities. Here are some examples. Now, there's a common image we would see of a white male doctor talking to a Black sick patient. In this instance, the person in the image with the power, in this case it's expert power or perhaps even legitimate power, is the white male doctor. While this could actually be a real scenario, do we need to continue to feed the narrative with our imagery that white males have more power than a Black woman or a woman of color? Okay, here's another one. A male doctor and a female nurse. Now, their race and ethnicity is irrelevant because from a gender standpoint, we are used to seeing power dynamics where the male has more power. And in this case, it is expert and legitimate power, but we're used to seeing power dynamics where men have more power than women. As a brand, do you need to continue to feed that perspective? Here's another one. When showcasing a group of friends in a group, do we often see the person who is kind of the main character or lead of the group exercising referent power as someone who has a larger body type than others, or perhaps even a person with a disability? Or are they always skinny, cisgendered, and able-bodied? If it's the latter, as a brand, do you want to feed the narrative that skinny, cisgendered, and able-bodied people are the ones with power everyone else flocks to? I'll drop a video with examples of these in the show notes. I'll also include a link to an article that's got these images as well. Now, there's power in imagery. It communicates so much more than you might even imagine. So make sure you're using it in a manner that is intentional rather than causing harm or pushing people away you don't intend to by not being proactive in particular about the imagery you use. All right, after this short break, we will get into specific questions you need to ask yourself to ensure you are portraying people in the correct light and you've got the right power dynamics with the visual imagery for your brand. Okay, I've got another podcast recommendation for you. It's Augmenters, hosted by Julie Meyer and Jimmy Edgerton, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So on this show, Julie and Jimmy dive into mentoring and explore ways to augment and refresh the mentoring environment. They're using 8 core principles that weave relevant spirit guides and diverse guests, and Julie and Jimmy use a lot of humor and practical tips to help mentors and mentees get further, faster together. There's so many great episodes to tune into for this show, but one that you might find especially interesting is their latest episode, number 120, Mentoring Across Gender, Men as Allies and Mentors. Listen to Augmenters wherever you get your podcasts. All right, as you are selecting images for your brand, be sure to ask these questions. First up, are we portraying people in our imagery favorably? Go back to that example that I started this with, where the wives were taking these wonderful, amazing pictures of their husbands, and then they were picking these like really awful pictures of her that were not her in her best light. Are you doing this to the people that you're serving? Are you doing this, particularly those for people from underrepresented and underserved communities? I can show you a number of examples of times where brands have not done this. I even have a whole podcast episode that covers this in detail. It's episode 25, an oldie but goodie. Listen before featuring diverse talent in your next video, photo, or content shoot. I will drop a link to this in the show notes so you can have a listen if you haven't already. Make sure you're showing people in their best light. Second question to ask yourself is, who has the power in this imagery? Evaluate for yourself what the power dynamics are. Then ask this follow-up question. Am I okay with my brand communicating this power dynamic? Another thing to consider is your library of imagery or your body of work. When you look at everything together, what is the overall story of power dynamics you are telling? Does your imagery skew one way in terms of power by gender, or is power diversified by gender? Does one race or ethnicity have more power than others in the images you publish, or is it more diversified in who has the power? Focus your review on both a micro level with the individual images, as well as at a macro level based upon all the imagery that your brand produced, and evaluate it based upon the specific identities you want to make feel like they belong with your brand, and then assess how well power is distributed among the various identities featured in your brand's visual imagery. When you focus your efforts here and even put some brand guidelines and policies in place around power dynamics, it helps to ensure you do a better job of communicating to all the people that you serve. People like me achieve success here. People like me belong here, and I belong here. Belonging is a result of intentional effort. True inclusion requires a sharing of and broader distribution of power. Use your power to ensure power is distributed widely in your brand's visual imagery. That's it for today's episode, but I really do want to hear from you. Are there certain power dynamics that you see over and over again in branded visual imagery that you're just tired of seeing? And are there power dynamics that you wish that you would see more of in visual imageries that brands put out? Let me know. Let's continue the conversation in the DMs, over email, on social. Let's let more brands know what we want to see more of and what we want to see less of. If you like this episode, I would so appreciate it if you would share it with a friend, colleague, and your network. It really does go a long way towards helping more people discover the show and to bring awareness to topics like these so that we can do better in our marketing as a whole. In addition, if you're enjoying the show, please do leave a rating and review for it in your podcast player of choice. Again, it does go a long way towards helping more people discover the show, which I like to think helps more people be more inclusive with their marketing. Another quick question for you. Are you getting the Inclusion and Marketing newsletter? If not, really, what are you even doing? Each week, I send news, insights, resources, and other good stuff for you to help you attract and retain a bigger, more diverse, and fiercely loyal customer base. Go to inclusionandmarketing.com/newsletter to get signed up. Also, if after hearing all this, you're struggling and you feel like you might need a little bit of support with evaluating the power dynamics and how you are portraying people, particularly those underrepresented and underserved communities, in your visual imagery, let me know. As part of the inclusive marketing audits I do for brands, this is one of the topics that we cover. Send me an email if you want to talk more, and I'll also drop a link to more details about the audits in the show notes for you. Until next time, remember, everyone deserves to have a place where they belong. Let's use our individual and collective power to ensure more people feel like they do. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon.